Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another Nights with Nora. And I am back again with a very special guest, ladies. This week, we are talking about a very important subject. We're talking about the mental health when it comes to the legal system, y'all. And I have with me a very special guest, like I said. She has never been on the show before, you guys. So y'all make sure y'all give her a round of applause. Yay! Her name is Miss Sandra Tolliver, and she is an attorney, a mediating attorney. And I want to make sure I get it all right. I'll let her introduce herself in just a second, y'all, because I want to make sure I get her title right and everything. But I'm so excited, y'all. If you guys know that I have been doing mental health and been talking about the subject of mental health for women for probably since 2015. And we've talked about so much stuff on this platform when it comes to your mental health. But I don't think we've ever talked about how that relates to you all when it comes to the legal system or it comes to your mental health when you are counseling clients in this area. So this is so exciting. I'm so happy to have her. And like I said, I don't think I've had anybody on my show from the legal system. So this is like my first rodeo with this. And I'm so excited about it because I think, like I said, it's a very important subject. It's something that us as women, we will deal with one way or another in our life. And I think she's going to bring so much insight to it. So I'll let her introduce herself and tell you ladies about who she is and kind of what she does. And then we'll get right into it. So go ahead, Miss Sandra, let the ladies know who you are.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm honored to be a guest. What I'm a Tulsa native, which I think is very important to me. I have an undergraduate degree in psychology and economics. I went on to law school and I've practiced law over 38 years now in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I've had my practice, my own law firm for almost all of that. I'm also a certified mediator, and I recently pivoted, is my term, from a brick and mortar office to remote. So I work from home where I am now, and I co-work at Root Co-working, where I meet my clients. And my new interest is I joined Builders and Backers Idea Accelerator for what I'm calling cognitive dispute resolution. So I am trying
Mm.
to create a new mediation model that is advanced with the use of behavioral science. And behavioral science, my understanding, is a kind of a combination of psychology, economics, and technology. So in the mediation world, what I'm trying to do is have a format, probably a software platform, where human decision making and the things that influence or impact the disputants, the people in the middle of a divorce or in the middle of a lawsuit, how they think and how can a mediator help direct them away from emotion and try to make logical decisions. So I have practiced in a lot of different areas over the years, but I'm a
Mm.
litigator. So that means divorce, custody, paternity, all areas of family law, and then civil litigation, which is primarily business disputes. And I have learned that a lawsuit regarding a small business can be just as overwhelming to a client as a divorce. I'm glad to be here and share my thoughts.
I'm excited you're here too. That's awesome. And what you said was so good because I couldn't imagine as an attorney or as someone that's trying to settle a dispute and dealing with people who are in crisis. And essentially, that is when you meet your
Mhm.
clients is in their deepest need and in crisis. And I think a lot of attorneys, when they go into that, they think about the, just the tactile side, not necessarily the mental piece that's going into what the client is experiencing. And I know that, as an attorney, a litigator or a mediator, you are not a therapist, but they are going through these big emotions. They having these big emotions. They're in crisis, and you are trying to talk them through something that they need to be level headed in. And so, as an
Right.
attorney or as someone that's trying to make sense of a crisis or chaos, how do you operate in that space of trying to give them some sense of peace, or how do you even begin to try to break that down and make that, or allow that client an opportunity or space to think logically?
Well, I think the most important thing is respect. When someone would walk in my door, I don't care what they look like, how they're acting, emotionally, but we give them respect. And with respect comes your listening skill. Not only are you listening for determination of what's at issue, but also determination of how can you help this person in crisis. You
Right.
have to acknowledge that emotion as an attorney, as a practitioner. They don't teach you that in law school. They don't teach
Right.
people skills. And no, I'm not a psychological counselor, but you have to have some either education or experience in life coaching to an extent. So, it's just like I can't be everything as an attorney for that client. So do you direct them to mental health professionals, just like you would if we're trying to sell a business or a piece of real estate? You're going to direct them to a professional in that area. But I think most important is making the client feel they are in a safe space with you, that because you need to know all their dirty secrets, and you need to do that without judgment. And then they will calm down, and then they will listen to you, because the last thing I want personally is a client that doesn't respect me or follow my recommendations. You have to understand when just because I know the law, I don't know the family. I don't know the relationships. I don't know the children, and neither will that judge that's going to end up making the decisions. So you should not tell them what to do. Well, settle this way. I'm not making that decision. Now, I will tell them the pluses and the minuses. I will tell them to go home and think about it. I've had female clients. It's so stressful. I just went away. I don't care about the money. Just get me my kids. Well, part of my job as a counselor at law is to help them with planning, because I think we as attorneys have a responsibility to think about what happens after the end, what happens after that divorce, and at least let the client know what their ability is to make changes or not be able to make changes after the case is ended in a divorce decree, for example. And the same thing, with even litigation in small businesses. You don't want the client to make a decision and their business is going to be over a year. In a year, so it's really more of the overall aspect of what that client needs. And so I think it's important to just help the client be aware. I will try to educate my clients on legal processes and procedures. Some love that, some don't care, don't want to hear about it. But at least I've made the effort, and if you say, hey, it's going to cost, then it gets their attention, sometimes with emotion, they think it's war, and it's not. And so when you explain that doing something strategically or procedurally isn't going to get them any different position in the case, but it's going to cost them $5,000, then they may, think about it a little differently.
Right, exactly. Hear me? All right, hold on. Sorry, my camera went off there. But I was going to say, a lot of times clients are so emotionally charged and wrapped up in their emotions. And like I said, they're in the middle of crisis. They're emotionally charged. They're not thinking clearly. And sometimes when you give them that dollar sign, it calms them down, kind of bring you back to reality. Like, this is going to cost me if I don't get my emotions under control, or I don't get my, what I'm going through under control. So I feel like a lot of times when you're in that and like I said to you off camera, a lot of lawyers don't handle that well. Like they don't like to deal with the emotional side of the
Correct.
count of the client. They don't like to deal with all of the work, because it takes an extra step to get through to your client and talk to them and calm them down and make them feel safe with them. And as an attorney, they're like, hey, this is the legal system. I'm gonna do it this way. We need to move this way. And I don't care if you're happy, sad, mad, depressed. The feelings are not considered. And like I told you, like I said, when I met you, just individually as a lawyer, and I'm just talking freely here, is that when I met you, I thought, wow, this attorney actually cares about her client. Like this is a person who actually is caring and taking the care for the mental health of the client and considering that going into litigation and into mediation, like what would make not only what is best for my clients legal wise, but what is best for my clients' mental health. And that is something that is very rare when it comes to dealing with clients. But I think when you think about the mental health of your client and the legal side of what you're doing, I think that is the best way to do practice. I mean, just my personal thought. I don't know if that's being biased because I'm in this work and I do this work, but I feel like if I'm not satisfying my client on the side of their mental health as well as the legal side, that I have done my client a disservice. And I think I told you an example about when I was battling my own legal battles, and the attorney just had no care for what I was doing, no thoughts for what I was going through, just getting it done. You know what I mean? So with that portion of it going, it was just like, what can I do? So with you, can you tell us like maybe a personal story about what you did during that time of how you had to care for the mental health of your client as well as the legal side?
Well, I think we've all as attorneys experienced what we call the needy client, the one that wants to call you a lot.
Oh my
Now,
goodness.
after COVID and things, have changed. I have Zoom meetings. I schedule phone
Uh-huh.
calls. It's a little different, but and I'm more open now, of course, to giving my cell phone number out. It's on my pleadings, my court paperwork, and I get the text if it becomes. But so you set your boundaries because
Right.
that's part of the respect. I want
Mm-hmm.
that client to respect me as well, but I understand that there are mental health issues, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I may not, respond to a text at night. I don't care if you send 10 texts, I'm not going to look at it, right?
Right.
Or if you want me to do something last minute or at night, I'm going to upcharge you. Okay. And
Right.
then you just well, sometimes you have to, I've dealt with family members of clients,
Yeah.
and it is helpful to have an emergency contact, a sister, a parent, a cousin, a grown child. I've done what we call gray divorces, older, over 55, as a follow up. And I will share a couple of stories.
Okay.
One, I had a client who was an out of state college professor.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue was her custody and visitation of her teenage daughters that lived in town here with their father. And I got an email, and it was a very cryptic email, but it definitely had suicidal ideations. And it kind of freaked me out. So I'm calling the bar association. We'll call the cops. Well, I don't know where the heck she is in Arizona. Okay. And it turned out I was aware of another professor who was a friend of hers. And I got on the phone. I called the school because I wasn't sure what department she was in. I said, you track her down now. You get her to call me. And I did. And she found her and things were fine, got her some assistance.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very scary thing for me. I had one client who, and I think it was we call it post decree, after divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And I was no longer representing him. Things were done. And he came and to the office and paid me off. And the next week he committed suicide.
Oh no.
Yeah. And so, you have to be that I've tried and I've done family law for so long. I don't take on the emotion or the personality of my client. Okay. So
Right.
but I am more sensitive than average and more aware than average of mental health issues with clients. I've had situations where it may not have been my client, but the other side is bipolar, off medication, and how do we deal, with that? That's kind of a whole nother side. But from a client care perspective, I think society in general should and is moving toward demanding that attention from a professional.
Yeah.
Demanding that we practice law in a client-centric, it's a new term, client-centric, manner. How would I want to be treated if I were a client?
Right.
So anyway, did I answer the question?
Yes, you did. That was great, because that's exactly what I was looking for. Because I feel like, especially with what you said with the suicide, I know even as I used to manage a large corporation, and I had one of my associates, or one of the people that worked for me, ended up committing suicide. Right. So we're in a work setting where we're told to get the job done. I don't have time to wipe your tears, but I work with um a lot of people. I had 80 constituents under me. 80 people. 80 people were under my watch. And so within that, you deal with a lot of different personalities and a lot of different things, but we had a business to run at the end of the day, right? I didn't have time to stop and check on the mental health of all of my associates. I just did not. I was just one person. I was taught to do a job. We had to hit a certain number today. So we just didn't really have a lot of time for breakdowns and people to have mental health crisis, depression, anxiety, all those things that the ladies, a lot of the women that were at my underneath me, that were dealing with. But I had a lady who reached out to me during the time that we were working, and she was just like, I need you to pray for me. She knew that I was a Christian. She knew about kind of what I did here on these platforms, and I prayed over her. And the next day she committed suicide. And it blew me away. Like, it just shook me, and it slowed me down in that whole thought process. Like, wow, like I'm with these people every day, and what are they carrying? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are the burdens that these people are carrying on a day-to-day basis? And I know I can't save the world, but what can we do as bosses and people in professional settings to try to reach some of these people? You know what I mean? Like, what can we do to make this more to make these environments more conducive to people to be able to express themselves, even to say, I'm having a bad day, or hey, I don't feel like living anymore. Like, what have I done? Like, how did I walk through these halls with these people every day? And she didn't feel comfortable with anybody in here to say anything to them about wanting to end her life. And so that's kind of what pivoted me and really woke me up into these different corporate organization. And now this same very organization has a manager in place, or like a person that's a liaison for the company, who literally does mental health right there on site and works with the HR department. And you can refer them right there in the facility to get that type of counseling, which was a blessing. And that kind of I started advocating for that after that incident. You know what I mean? Because I mean, we just can't be so impersonal with people that we don't know, and we can't always tell, because people that's in that position, they do hide that on purpose. So I'm not saying that we can read minds, but what we can do is create environments for people to be able to say, hey, I don't want to be here anymore, or hey, I'm having a bad day, or hey, I'm feeling depressed, or hey, I'm at least at the bare minimum, I'm sad, or my dog died, or I'm dealing with grief, or my husband's trying to leave me, or I'm going through it, like whatever that is. What can we do to make these safer places? And as an attorney, this is my next question to you, or ask, is what resources that you guys provide, or that you know of, are being provided to clients when you're dealing with them in these case scenarios? If you do have a client that comes to you and says, hey, this is how I'm feeling, or I want to commit suicide, or I'm having depression, or I'm having anxiety, what type of programs that you know of are in place to be able to refer out, or what resources do y'all have available to give to y'all clients?
Well, I think in general, you always would direct someone to their health insurance plan.
Right.
For counseling, for sliding scale, there's family and children's services. If abuse is an issue, there's Divas, and they've got free counseling for abuse victims. The church support, sometimes there's divorcing, church places. A lot of it is you get in a quandary because, people don't have money. If they have money, they don't have time. If they take off from work to do counseling, they lose their job. And so, sometimes you have to just look at evening counseling. Now the new more telehealth.
Yes, yeah.
The counselors were doing everything online. And when you're dealing with a divorcing family, and children are at issue, I always suggest at least, find out if your school has a counselor on site. There's programs that will send counselors to the school because, and we're getting off topic, but that those children, even if they don't hear a word about court, divorce, judge, they feed off the emotions,
the
of the
yes.
So they know kids are a lot smarter, at 10 than I was, that's for sure. I mean, that's just society, in general. There's different, I think there's a list through Tulsa County District Court for local, resources, the, crisis hotlines, the Native American, benefits with those hospitals or clinics, and then there's, everything from, yoga and aromatherapy and sound bowls. And, everyone has a different, different things are going to appeal to different people and work for different people. I've tried to meditation. My mind just keeps going. I cannot stop the thoughts. Now, I like sounds. I like to go to sleep with ocean waves. My husband likes thunderstorms, but still, and it's really making the public aware, there, because a lot of times that lawsuit, that litigation, that divorce is a very healthy step for an individual or even the family.
Right.
But the process of getting through it is painful,
Absolutely.
And when we talk about, we're talking about the workplace, studies have shown that when people are going through a life crisis, divorce, death, grief, illness, they may not be there, but there's a reduction 40% in your work productivity. And so you have to understand, it's not just my feelings are hurt, my husband wants to leave me. Okay. Then there's this natural reaction. How am I going to pay for it? What am I going to do with the kids? Am I, can I keep my job? Oh, if he made more than I did, and so it kind of just snowballs. So if you can help a client with that emotion and that mental health, and direct them, budgeting, and there's so many free, resources through the library, YouTube, that if you can at least tell them, okay, just get on, do something right. If you don't have a computer, a lot of my clients live through a phone. They use their phone for the scanner, for the email, texting. They don't have a laptop. And if they have children, the children now have Chromebooks which is
Mm-hmm.
basically just the internet connection, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes technology is they're not aware of, or it's not available. But you know, it all starts, I think, in any professional service, just trying to be aware, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
getting. I think my biggest gripe when I see other attorneys, and the courthouse is totally different than it used to be. It used to be packed. We had these dockets in family law, then you'd
Mm-hmm.
see tons of attorneys and their clients. But
Mm-hmm.
I would notice back then, it's just a lack of respect and acknowledgement. And I think a lot of attorneys, they don't even realize it. You know, I
Right.
make a point of going, and if my client is with me, I introduce my client to that other attorney, because that other attorney is going to have an effect on our side, because they're representing the opposite party. You know,
Right.
I
Exactly.
want my client to be acknowledged. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's their life we're dealing with, their kids, their house, their money, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think it really it starts for me, it starts with just basic respect for a human being.
Right.
And then, you know, making sure with that acknowledgement and that respect, you're not judging and you're listening. I mean, and have to say, listening is a learned skill. It does not come naturally to some people at all. And it's not an automatic, oh, I have a law degree, I know how to listen and evaluate, you know.
Right. Exactly. And
Yeah,
that, you
so
know what, Sandra, that's what and I'm so glad you said that stuff about this, like basically humanizing the client and knowing that it's a family and it's children and it's a life connected to the people that you're trying to protect or that you're fighting for in court. And I noticed that when the lawyers don't connect with the clients or they don't find empathy for the client, then they don't work as hard or battle for that client as much as they would if they did. You get what I'm saying? I'm not saying go around and be best friends with every client, but you got to know
no,
that that's a human being on the end of that. Like that person has went through a crisis. They probably in the middle of a divorce, especially with these domestic violence situations, whether it be male or female. Mostly it's women, obviously, that go through these domestic violence. They trying to get out of these relationships or out of these marriages from these men. And they don't humanize those women. Like they don't humanize them at all. And I know a lot of women that are on this platform or that will listen to this have been through that. They've been through domestic violence. They've been hurt by their husbands, their boyfriends, or whatever the case may be, and they have children involved and they're coming out of that. And the last thing they want is somebody to treat them less than in the middle of these court proceedings, right? They want to see them as human and fight for them in a way that they really care about the client. We're not just in here to type numbers in or go by the books. Like, what can we do to really benefit this client? And I noticed that when myself personally, me and my husband were going through a custody battle, and the attorney just did not humanize us at all. He was just like in and out, didn't think about what was best for me and my husband or the child that was involved in the custody, just going by the books. And I'm like, golly, like I felt bad paying him. I feel like I had been had. You know what I mean? Like we got everything done, but it wasn't resolved. Like it was just a mess. And I think that's what kind of brought when I met you and started talking to you about the way that you practice law and the way that you care that you deal with your clients and interface with clients. I thought, wow, what if more attorneys interface with their clients in a way where they humanize their clients and deal what was best for the client's interest, not just what was legal. You know what I mean? And so I think it's really good that, that you go in and you said that word and you said to humanize the client and make that and create some type of empathy with them to say, like, what if I was in that position? Like, what if this was me? What would I want? What would I need from an attorney if this was me in this position? And I think when you do that, you can really best serve, your clients going forward. So this is good. These conversations are good. I'm so glad that we're finally having them and people are openly talking about mental health more, because I know it's been so many stigmas around just talking about mental health or
yeah,
admitting that I'm depressed, admitting that I have, anxiety or I've gone through anything, because you want to have a stone face. You want to come in as a force, especially as a woman, in this field, and you don't want to look like as the emotional one. Like, how have you balanced that? And I know that wasn't in the questions that I asked, but as a woman and a female attorney, how have you been able to show emotion and still be a powerhouse at the same time when it comes to dealing with your clients?
Well, I'm not typically weepy, which is
Right.
good.
I know.
Um, and I think and I try not to internalize the cases.
Right.
I've seen some attorneys that will literally take on the personality of the client, and it's very negative.
Mm.
And I can't stand opposing counsel that just badmouth my client. I won't tolerate it. So for me, I think my personal challenge is to tone myself down, and
Mm-hmm.
because I
Right.
do have a voice. I am
Right.
the voice for my client. My client will not be ignored. My client will not be insulted. I don't allow that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm quite zealous and passionate in the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a very expressive face. So I have to
Mm.
catch myself, because when I have anger, disgust, I
Right.
don't have the smile,
I don't want to get
and,
nobody up in here. Uh-huh.
the judge is looking down at everybody, and I'm just
Right.
trying so
Mm-hmm.
hard not to, spit something out that I don't like hearing.
Even though they deserve
And
it. Mm-hmm.
yes, oh man, the hardest thing about practicing family law public
Mm-hmm.
is opposing counsel. I had a
Uh-huh.
law clerk a few years back, and she, after working around me for 2.5 years, it's like, no, I don't want to do family law. I'm very proud of
Okay.
her. She's a plaintiff's medical malpractice attorney in New York City now, very bright woman. And
Uh-huh.
I said, well, I told her the worst thing is the personalities of your opposing counsel. And it
Mm-hmm.
really starts within the industry to talk about this. Now, with COVID particularly, and I'm kind of digressing, I'll get back,
No,
but
you okay.
mental health within the legal community, it has been a focus. It used to be the term work-life balance, and particularly
Yeah.
as women, how are we going to handle it all?
Yeah.
And now it's more, mental health, in general. And we have what is called lawyers helping lawyers. So it's a support group. Attorneys have a very high suicide rate. So you also have addictions, alcohol, various kind of drugs. And our bar association dues, we're allowed 6 hours of free counseling. And I think
Mm.
that's probably more for, a crisis, that you're going through. You can't really take on all the woes of every client,
Right.
so you have to keep those boundaries up and keep a healthy emotional
Right.
distance. And there's still, when you say being a female, it's not so much the emotions of a female. I think it's we still have half or more of law students are female. My class, graduating in 1984, was 40% female. They don't
Wow.
stay in the industry. They move on. They don't like it. They have children. They just, whatever, they're moving around. So, yeah, I'm a senior lawyer, and yeah, I've had younger lawyers go, "How can you handle family law?" But for me personally, I think it is toning down my reactions. I have had opposing counsel just infuriate me until someone said, well, that's the reaction that person wants out of you. They want you to be angry. They want you, and I go,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're right, man. I've got to change it up and just smirk at, kill them with a smile, you
Mm-hmm.
know, kind of attitude. But so, that's that's kind of my personal challenge. But you can't help but feel for someone that is in pain. I mean,
Right. That
at
part.
least
Mm-hmm.
I can. I mean, that's just I'm just a fellow, human being. But and in general, I mean, men are passionate in the opposite way. They're the angry, the hateful, the insulting. You know, it's that
Yeah.
young male testosterone. And I'm thinking, I'm old enough to be your mother. And would you treat your mother like that? Would you talk to your mother like that? You know? And
Exactly.
it's still
Hmm.
shocking. And, you know, I put the onus back on law school that hasn't changed in my 40 years, you know?
Hmm.
Where's the, um, I do think they're trying to make it more, uh, give them some business acumen. And that's all good and fine. But I don't care what kind of deal you're doing. You can do mergers and acquisitions. You can do, you know, corporate law, but there's personalities behind. It's all about the people. You know,
Right.
it's not about the law. It's not about the transaction. You know, and so in negotiation, in mediation, you know, all those things have to be considered. I hope I
Absolutely.
answered.
You did.
I
You
hope
always
I
answer with
answered the
thorough too,
question.
because, but at the same time that you talking to me, I'm learning because it's not a lot that I know about. Like obviously, I haven't spent a lot of time in this area of life. I don't know a lot about the legal system, and like I said, I come in with kind of a biased perspective of attorneys and what you guys do and what you're about, because it just seems rigid, especially with the field I'm in mental health. I feel like it opposed to what I do, which is literally go after the emotions and the feelings of clients and try to figure out what they're not what they're thinking, but how to help them regulate emotions and be able to function in an everyday life with the emotions that they have, whether it's getting them out and repressing them or like healing from the trauma. No, I do a lot of work with that. And so I was curious to see how that would fit into the legal world. You get what I'm saying? Because it just didn't seem like it would be any room for a person to have a mental crisis, in that part. But the more I talk to you, you literally meet people just the same as I do in their deepest crisis. You know what I mean? And like, how do you navigate that? How do you channel that? How do you get them to get that under control as an attorney? Because in order to go in there, like you can't go into here, we can't go in here a basket case of emotion, right? We got to find some way to regulate and to place these emotions where they need to be for us to get to this end result. And that's literally what I do in my work as well, is I help clients regulate their emotions and place them to where they're able to function in everyday life. Because you truly can't go places and succeed. I mean, you can go to work depressed, but will you succeed? No, ma'am. You won't be able to function properly. And eventually you'll probably lose your job due to anxiety, depression, whatever it may be. You'll probably end up out of that job if you can't get those things under control. So, it's just been it's been enlightening, I say, talking to you about this part of it. So if you could, what advice would you give to future attorneys coming into this that are going to deal with or current attorneys that are going to deal with clients emotions, who are going to deal with all of this type of thing? What advice or what thoughts, as a thought leader? I know we talked about you being a thought leader. What are your thoughts or your advice to other attorneys or future attorneys that are going to deal with clients in these types of capacities?
Well, I have found one of my tricks to an extent is involving the client in their own lawsuit, in their own case.
Right.
So, and it reinforces the respect and the acknowledgement of them as a person, as a human being, but it also distracts them. Okay, so
Mm,
if someone is worried about finances, there's the list of all the documentation that you need to gather and bring me. Oh, well, can't you just subpoena that? Yes, for an extra $3,000, I can do that for you.
right.
But what's your budget? Well, I don't know. I just everything's on automatic draft. Well, we'll get your last 12 months of bank statements.
Hmm.
And so when they are, sometimes I do on real emotional people, if they don't have a counselor, or they don't really have the time, at least journal. If we're talking about kids, keep a calendar. if you're already separated, when are the phone calls? When is the visitation? Communicate with the other parent by text or email. I mean, we can set up co-parenting apps,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fabulous for communication because they can't change anything. If they don't want to open it, then but if they read it and don't respond, it's tagged, and it's also a place where you can put in all the information. There's also a divorce platform that's a software to gather all of the finances, and has the budgeting, has calendaring, and that's very, very useful. So it saves the client money, but it also empowers that client, male or female, to feel that they have a voice. Their voice is being heard because they're presenting, they're gathering that information so that they know what they have. I don't know what they have. I'm just
Right.
meeting these people. And I think that's very helpful. So for, attorneys that may want to avoid, because they're out
Right.
there, emotion,
Right.
use technology to empower your own client for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that they feel they have a voice. And I'm very transparent as an attorney. So I will share all correspondence, all pleadings. I scan, and I forward copies of emails. There isn't a thing that's going to happen in your case that you don't know about.
Right.
That's also a show of respect and involvement. You're paying me. I'm not going to deal behind your back. Well, let's just negotiate something and tell our clients this is what they should do. No, I don't care if it's a business deal or a visitation schedule. I'm not doing that. It's not my life. It's not my child. I don't have that right. I'm
Right.
just the spokesperson. I'm the agent. More
Right.
importantly, I'm the advocate. But
Right.
no, I think that a good place to start is through current technology, and because that is going to give some feelings of empowerment to a litigant, a participant in a lawsuit.
That's so good. Because I think, especially with like the people that we're talking to, because honestly, a lot of women, like I had a lot, I get inboxes every day where women are telling me, hey, I got out of this situation, I've been in this, and they just don't know what to do. They're lost for a direction on where to go next. And a lot of them will end up in these courtrooms and with an attorney. And so, don't know what to ask, don't know what to expect when they get into these different situations, especially, being so fragile. Like, I feel like people know when they're in a fragile state of life, when you going through, you just come out of a messy situation, you trying to get out of it. Your self-esteem is probably taken a blow, the trust in yourself, the self-trust. A lot of times when you pick a partner that abuses you, you just don't trust your own judgment anymore at that point. So to meet an attorney that's going to be reassuring, that's going to give them a plan that they can trust, that's going to keep it honest with them, that's good. I mean, I very much commend you, Sandra, on being that person to people, because it's not easy to go through that. Like you said, nobody wants to sit up and deal with a whole bunch of unreal emotions every day. And even me, in the field that I do, the work that I do, sometimes I get downtrodden with everybody else. I get bogged down with all these issues, and I'm like, oh God, here we go again. So it takes you to go the extra mile to be able to sit with that client in their darkest times, in the times of crisis, and really be a voice and a safe place for them to be able to expand and tell their story and open up to you about those things. And especially in the area that you worked in, and then be able to have to, provide a case for them. You know what I mean? Out of all, kind of like put together the puzzle pieces of all these things you told me. I got to put this together and make it sound well enough for me to win whatever we need to win for you to be in a better place. So, I mean, that's absolutely commendable. Like I said, the work that you're able to do, not only your job as an attorney or as a litigator, but to go the extra mile and make that person feel safe, and to check in with their mental health, and to make sure that they're okay in that area of life. So that's something that we can commend. I love that for you. I love that for the clients that are going to be in your chairs and sit across from you under your care. So I love that. So anyway, tell the ladies about what you got coming up next. Where can we hear from you? How do we follow you? How do we become your client? Where can we find you? So let us know.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I have Tolliver Law Facebook
Mm-hmm.
page. I
Okay.
have a LinkedIn. I don't even know how. Just you'd have to search. I'm not the greatest with. Uh, that's a whole nother topic with marketing. I've never needed
Yeah.
it. I don't really advertise. My website is Tolliver TOLLIVER lawoffice.com.
Mm-hmm.
My main number is 918-743-4400 that I've had forever. And um, that's probably all. I want to add one thing that it
Mm-hmm.
could be a whole nother topic, but I think
Mm-hmm.
from the public's perspective, part of the role of an attorney, and it ties into how the client feels, is the expectations of the court. We can make that another topic, but the judges may that are in Tulsa County that are deciding your divorce case. They
Mm-hmm.
may have not practiced family law. They may
Mm.
be 30 years younger than me. Um, so don't expect the court system to fix something. Don't
Mm-hmm.
expect the court system to make the other side do something. We can't make people be good parents.
Right.
So we'll save that for another topic, another time. But
I
I think
like
it's
that though, because it's
well,
that's the
but
big part about it though,
the
because
client expectation, and
mm-hmm.
I get real with my clients. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And that's why when we have mandatory mediation in Oklahoma, statewide, required in contested divorce cases before you're going to get a trial. And that's kind of why after my lengthy, I'm still practicing obviously, but why I think there needs to be improvement in a mediation model, because when you talk about the uh, the feeling of an attorney not listening to you, not really hearing you, just doing the work, mediators are doing the same thing. And as a practitioner,
Mm.
I participate as an advocate for my client, and I've done hundreds sitting through, and I'm going,
Right.
okay, this isn't really working for me. If it's not working for me, it's not working for my client. We need to fix that system. So that's kind of my new thing. And that's why I think I'm a thought leader. But
Right. And you know what? I was going to ask you that, Sandra. What do you think it could improve? But you kind of answered it for me when it comes to these type of interactions. Like, what could we do to try to or improve what, the attorney-client relationship and what the expectations is? Like, I don't know, like, if it could be some type of briefing ahead of time, because I think clients go in with a different expectation than what attorneys do for them. And I think that's why it's so disappointing, because you think, oh, I'm about to go in there and tell them my life story and all this bad stuff is happening and they gonna just fix it all. You know what I mean? Like you feel like, and then when they come back with the response, you're like, oh, like they really don't care. So like, what can we do, or what do you think could be done to like try to improve like what that expectation is and what the reality of what I don't know if we can go do a class or they can really get educated, but it seems like it's like a breach between the two. You know what I mean? So,
yes, well, and I think that it comes back to training of the lawyers too. I would anticipate for myself personally on my new ventures, it'd be good to do surveys of the
oh,
public, or and see what their expectation is. I know that I prep my client before we go into a mediation.
mm-hmm,
Um, as a mediator myself, I'm going to do videos. So, and I'm
mm,
going to do mediation the way I want to do it. You either going to like it and hire me, or you're not going to want me. Um,
mm-hmm,
and explain where it needs to be a safe place. Explain my views on why I wanted to do an intake. I wanted to do a questionnaire, because
mm,
to try to understand the way they're thinking at this point in their life. I mean, there's, from a psychological perspective, there's all sorts of, what do people divorce over? Money, sex, children, I mean, who controls what? And it's not, not always about emotion. Sometimes it's just about pure control. Narcissism, I mean, we see it quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And, so you want a process where you can try to understand that, and then it goes even into, the court system, the legal system is quite limited, and no, you don't want, the judges don't want to hear someone going on and on complaining, or historically, someone was mean to me in the marriage. Right. They don't have the time for it. So then the client's expectation is, oh, well, that judge doesn't like me. He's not going to listen to me. I'm screwed. I'm going to lose, Right. And my view, and I try to instill in all my clients, when you come in my door, you've already lost. I mean, your marriage is falling apart, your home unit, the dad's not helping out, if it's paternity, whatever. So you're just trying to, you're trying to resolve that situation and plan and move forward, so sometimes the expectation from the emotion of the client is, I want to go to court. I don't care what it costs, and I'm going to win.
Right.
When it comes to, fairness and equity, that's property and debt. Children, right. Best interests of the children. It's as simple as that, Exactly. So anyway, and the facts determine how you argue those things.
Because like I said, I think it goes back to what we first said, is they so emotional and they caught up in the emotional side of it. They're missing like the practical legal side of it that is more tactile. And so sometimes when we dealing out of our emotions, and like that's the thing as an attorney, how do I guide you away from your emotions and put you into your, the logical part of your mind and not the emotional part of your brain, and you in your heart. We need you to get in your head. You in your heart right now. We need you in your head without being brass. And that's the disconnect, right? That's the thing that we have not mastered. We haven't mastered. How do I get this person thinking logically and out of their feelings, out of their emotion? And they just been through a divorce. They're going through a divorce. They just been, experienced infidelity or domestic violence, or maybe this person has took their child away from them. How do I get them out of their feelings and into their head so we can win this case? And I think that's the crossover that a lot of attorneys don't do generally. You get what I'm saying? They don't know how to do that without just saying, hey, let's go. Like, I don't have time for you to be in your feelings. It's time to go. Like, how do I nurture that person out of that? And honestly, you don't have a lot of time in that courtroom to do that. Like, we got a case in front of us. We got to go. Like, I don't have time to pat you on the back, you know what I mean? And get you through this situation. You need a therapist for that. And I don't have that. But what can we do to make that, to bridge that gap? So this conversation is good. Like I said, I love it because it's something that people don't think about. They haven't really thought, like, oh, okay, this is a thing. Like, this needs to be addressed. Like, how can we do this better with our clients, and how can clients prep themselves more, knowing they're going into meet a person who's not here to do that? Like, we're not here to counsel you. We are here to counsel you, but not in the way that you think. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And so that's that. I think that's the disconnect. So that's good. I love that information. So, but anyway, I think we got to continue this. We got to talk more about this. I think it's going to be a part 2 to this, because truly children are involved, life is involved. People come in this thing with expectations that may not be met, but legally we met your expectations, but maybe mentally they are not. So that's good. But anyway, leave us with some final thoughts, Miss Sandra, on what you think could just wrap up, like just maybe a wrap up of what you think for clients can be more helpful for them going through this process.
Well, I always suggest that interview potential attorneys. Don't expect them to give you legal advice for free.
Right.
But at least take the time to, I mean, I do it with potential clients so that they know how you think, how you're going to represent people, how are you going to communicate? Because it should be your choice. Now, sometimes, finances are an issue, and you apply for legal aid, so you have a free attorney who's got 500 cases and communicates with you right before court. But I think it really stems from just trying to have some confidence that you can be assertive. And if someone shuts you down, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't want to work with that person. And hopefully in time to come, there'll be more resources, low cost, sliding scale that are out there. Some people can't afford to get divorced.
Right.
They can't. The filing fee is $300. They don't know how to do a pauper's affidavit, or the person moved off out of state. They're not getting a dime of child support. DHS is a wonderful child support collection, but it's limited. I mean, sometimes in big counties it takes 6 months to get anything going. And that all comes into expectations. But if people are listening to this, what you're looking for is an attorney that you feel comfortable with, and usually if they will just talk to you over the phone, sometimes they don't. That's a big sign. I don't want that person. If they're not going to talk to me over the phone for 15 minutes, then they're not going to listen to me. But it's an ongoing problem. We have the whole access to justice issue. How do we provide resources that can help people that are affordable? But I would just say try to take control of yourself as much as you can, and even not. That's why I think engaging, gathering information is a good exercise, because it distracts from sometimes the emotion. If you have the burden of gathering, there's tons of stuff, YouTube and the websites for the courts. Legal Aid has a website. DHS has a website. And I'm finding more people have come to me after they've, Googled something or looked something up, or they figured out how to run a child support computation so they would know how much they're going to get. And I also will, and I charge, but you want to come into me and let's see where you are. Let's see where you are emotionally. Let's see how the kids are doing. Let's see what the finances are like. And if it's not in your best interest to file for divorce right now, then start your financial planning now. And that doesn't mean hiding money. It doesn't mean, but preparedness. And part of that is the mental preparedness and the emotional preparedness. Other times you absolutely have to file immediately for various reasons, but as much as someone can take control of themselves, their life, their issues, educate themselves, the more empowered and comfortable they will be, even with an attorney that thinks differently than me, but can get a job done.
So exactly, I like that. Because people need to be prepared. Because I didn't think about the point that you need to be prepared to get the divorce. Because it's a whole thing that you're going to have to go through. And if you're unprepared and don't know what you're doing and you have time to prepare, then you'll be more prepared going in. And it won't be a side swipe to you, especially if the other person is preparing, like the opposition party is preparing, especially as women, because we have kids, we have all this stuff that we're carrying. And the other spouse may just have to go to work, but we have to work, watch kids. We may have to separate from them and be trying to, work all that out on our own. So we're at a disadvantage from the other party.